We will have a really interesting guest up next. You won't want to miss this. Jennifer Zhang is someone who was in she was 4 times arrested and put into labor camps in China. And she has a firsthand account of why socialism and communism should not be thrown around as a sparkly new ideal by young people in this country. We'll have that for you as we continue. It's the Jen and Don Show on AM 590, The Answer. And Don, a lot of our time is spent talking about the motives of the left in this country, the push towards socialism. It's a scary thing to say, but it's even scarier when you think about just how close this country is coming to adopting socialist ideals, and just how, because of infiltration in the school system, more and more young people in this country think that this is our best path forward. This is not just a term. This is real life for many people who have tried to escape socialist and communist countries to come to find safe harbor in our country.
And too many young people don't understand the cost in terms of human life and suffering that these other forms of government have inflicted on their people in order to advance their agenda in their home countries. It's devastating.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about socialism, when you're talking about communism, we thought it best to go to the source. Jennifer Zhang is our guest. She is the author of a book. She was born in China back in 1966. She was arrested 4 times and held as a prisoner of conscience in a labor camp for a year. In that camp, she was physically and mentally abused, subjected to attempted brainwashing, electric shock treatment. Her story is incredible. I was watching a video that we will post on our Facebook page that will help Jennifer tell her story, and she'll tell it to us here as well. You can check out her book. We have a link to that on jenanddonshow.com. Jennifer, welcome to the Jen and Don Show. We so appreciate you being here to tell us your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I watched a video of you speaking before the Capitol, and you were talking about what socialism, what communism meant to you in your life. Tell us a little bit about your life in communist China.
Yes, it can be called a living hell on earth. Not only me, I think up to now, maybe over a half population of whole China were persecuted one way or the other. I myself, like you said, threw into a labor camp and tortured nearly to death. And so many people, maybe millions of them are still there today, and their organs could be taken at any minute for organ transplant. So they profit from selling people's organs. So these are all the realities of communist China, or what they call it. So, yeah.
Before we jump into exactly what happened to you as a political prisoner, you were born in China. What brought you into those labor camps? How did you get there?
Yes, I practiced meditation, system called Falun Gong. It's a meditation system to improve your mental and physical health. But because so many or too many people were practicing it, I think in 1999, 7 years of its introduction to the public, there were more people practicing Falun Gong than the Communist Party members. So in that year, the Communist Party decided to crack down on this practice. So whoever is practicing it could be rounded up at any moment. That's why I ended up in prison for 4 times and then threw into a labor camp.
You have such a compelling story. It starts with your parents who lived through what's called the Great Leap Forward, which is such a bad name. It was a 5-year plan of forced agricultural and collectivism brought about by the communist dictator Chairman Mao. So your family and many families in China have lived through this, but China's been in the headlines a lot here in America, most recently as the source or suspected source for the coronavirus. Obviously President Trump with trying to navigate trade deals, China's economic policies of currency manipulation and economic dominance through cheap labor. But your message to us here in the West is of a China that wants to essentially dominate the world, and you bring with you a warning for this. Tell us about that. And your story is so compelling. You're going to be in the Redlands at Redlands University on Friday night. And we want to give folks information so that they can hear your full story. Tell us a little bit about, bring that story forward into today's headlines. Tell us what we need to know about those things.
Yes, I think the Chinese Communist Party has made it very clear they do want to dominate the world. So in their name, they call it a China Dream or a Chinese Dream, which is to promote their way or their model of govern the country to the entire world. So through their Belt and Road initiative and their way of handling and infiltrating the free world, including America, I think we've already seen part of those. I think realized in many places of the earth. But right now, I think with the outbreak of the coronavirus, we see another very disastrous reality of this communist China, which is because it's in the habit to cover up any negative news, including any epidemic like this coronavirus. And because it's cover up after cover up, that's how this gets out of control. And I think now it's spread to over 80 countries and have already brought very heavy human life losses, both inside and outside of China. And this is the reality of the Communist Party. It's in their nature to cover up the truth, to arrest doctors who fight on the public. And that's why this affair is getting out of control. And now they are trying to blame America and the other part of the world for this problem and making it, and under such difficult times, they are still trying to brainwashing the Chinese people into hating the West for the orange place of the virus. Although we in the West, we all knew it all started from Wuhan, from Hubei, from China. But they are now trying to turn the blame to the Western world. That's the reality of socialism in China.
Jennifer Zhang is our guest. She has an incredible story to tell. You can check out her book online, and this one is called Witnessing History, One Woman's Fight for Freedom and Falun Gong. Now, Jennifer, there are so many questions that I have for you. I guess in terms of, and I'll just ask you two at the same time, in terms of the coronavirus, was this something that was intentionally released on the Chinese people, or do you believe that this was a mistake? And then part two of that, obviously the Chinese government contends with the technology that's available in the West, but how much of the alternative thought of the West is slipping in to Chinese culture? Is there any hope that the people are going to get some messages of freedom from media or from new technology?
Maybe let me ask the second one first.
Sure.
I think the United States does have the ability to try to help the Chinese people to get free information. I think the technology is already ripe. We have this kind of satellite program. If we use satellite to offer Chinese people free access to internet, I think so many things, so many problems could be solved. And right now, the Chinese people are only be able to watch, the CCTV, China Central News, and whatever available them on WeChat, and all the information in those platforms were propaganda by the party and hatred toward the West. So I think it all depends on how determined the West world is to help the Chinese people to tear down this great firewall, like once President Reagan said, tear down the wall. So it depends on our political will and determination whether we do want to offer Chinese people free internet access. And to your second question, yes, I think there are a lot of speculations of whether this virus escaped from the lab or whether it's a bioweapons or purposely released. I think from the evidence we do have now, I think personally, we can't actually make judgment of whether it's a purpose release or it's just an accident escape from the lab. But many people believe it's something goes wrong with the lab because there were previous incidences where the SARS-related virus escaped from 2 labs, I think back in 2004 or something. And it's very weird that after this outbreak, the Chinese government tried so hard to hide evidence and not allowing U.S. experts to get into the epicenter of Wuhan to try to investigate, and they are now destroying evidence like the seafood market. They claim to be the origin of the virus, but now they are demolishing this market. They closed up it as early as July the 1st. They destroy all the evidence. And many, even Chinese media try to expose some of the cover-ups, but those articles got deleted very soon. And there are many evidence of there is a P4 or biology safety level 4 lab in Wuhan, only maybe dozens of miles away from the seafood market. And that P4 lab, they did have done some very suspicious research in the previous years, like trying to do some change to the virus for it to have more functions, more easy to infect people. So all these things put together cannot stop people from worrying or from suspecting that this could be something went wrong with that lab.
Jennifer Zhang, who's a survivor of Chinese labor camps, is telling her story here in the Inland Empire. She's going to be at the University of Redlands Friday evening at the Hall of Letters 100 is the name of the building. It's open to the public. It starts at 6 o'clock, Friday, March the 6th, if you want to hear her full compelling story. And, China is a country that we have to America at large has to understand. Jennifer, my co-host, you at the beginning articulated the fact that China is the ideology, the government's ideology of communism is a clear and present danger today to America. And Jennifer Zhang, we saw this play out in the Hong Kong protests. I wanted to get your take on what actually was unfolding in Hong Kong, because that is a city that is ultimately going to transfer to communist China, I think somewhere around 2040, 2049. And there were massive protests having to do with the extradition of individuals to China for breaking certain laws. Those protests, obviously, in the wake of the coronavirus, have been put down. But what's the status of that civil unrest in Hong Kong as those people try to deal with the eventuality of coming under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party?
Yes, I think the residents, what they want to achieve is still there. Only, yes, in those days, the coronavirus is more of in the news. But we need to remember, up to now, more than 6,000, Hong Kong people were arrested, and we don't know where they are, what happened to them, and so many could have been killed or claimed to have committed suicide, but were actually murdered by the police. So I think Hong Kong is a very good example for the world to look at what the Chinese Communist Party is really doing to their own people. They promise you something, but they never promise they keep their promise. And in reality, little by little, they are taking away Hong Kong's freedom. I think that extraditional deal is just something that triggered out the whole movement, but it's more more than that. It's taking away their Hong Kong people's own way of life. It's imposing communism little by little to Hong Kong people. So in some point, the Hong Kong people felt enough is enough. If we don't stand up now, there will never be any chance. That's why so many brave young Hong Kong people, risk so much, risk their safety, risk their life, and some already sacrificed life to defend the future of the Hong Kong people. And I think they inspired the world so much, and I think we do need to support them and be grateful for them to give the world a chance to look at the real nature of the Communist Party and to defend the freedom. If they are at the front line to fight against the Communist Party, and I think the world should be behind them. And now, because the whole world is facing the problem of that system, that virus of the Communist Party is spreading throughout the world, and if we don't try to confine it, try to fight against it, I think we are already seeing the consequences, and it could be worse. And so I think it's high time that we wake up to the real evil nature of communism, of Communist Party.
Boy, and you really tell us from experience. Jennifer Zhang is our guest. She's the author of Witnessing History, and she's going to be at Mill Creek Cattle Company March the 5th. Right now, this is your chance to come on out 7 to 9 p.m., and this story is really incredible. The Redlands Tea Party Patriots really doing a great job bringing Jennifer out. Don, I know you will be there.
I'll be there, and I will be there Friday evening to hear the continuation of that story at the University of Redlands, the Hall of Letters. I'm going to put that on our Facebook page. Jennifer, too many young people in America have a romanticized version and belief of socialism and communism, and people like Jennifer Zhang are shattering that. And it's an important story for people to start hearing.
A dose of reality, absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for being with us. You're welcome back here anytime, and we can't wait to see you here in the Inland Empire, both on Thursday and Friday evenings.